Welcome back to Chapter 4, a slightly depressing one, where I had to simplify things a lot to be able to keep moving forward at all. Basically, using up an awful amount of time to achieve surprisingly little, so this is going to be a short one. So without further ado, let's rebuild the world. Why, you ask? Well, I realized that I'm basically overwhelmed by every single aspect of game development, and to no one's surprise at all, it's a lot more time consuming than I thought. So some things need to change. The idea is to move from whatever style I had before to a traditional low poly style, as it's one of the easiest styles to quickly create and due to its low amount of geometry will also be quite a bit more performant. So back in Blender, I created a few cliff parts by creating a simple shape with a single vertex, extruding it and adding some rough details with the knife tool. After modeling a few cliff faces in that fashion, I also created some smaller rocks and added some irregularities to the canyon floor. Now trees. Modeling some low poly trees is actually rather easy with the skin modifier, so I tried a few different styles there as well. And that's it. Here's the result of maybe 2 hours of modeling and trying stuff in Blender, compared to days of work I spent on the old scene. Good enough for now. Let's add some color. For this, I bought a pretty cool shading asset, called All-in-One 3D Shader. Most of the shading that happens from now on will be done with this asset. However, sometimes that wasn't possible due to shader limitations. For the cliff walls, I used a height gradient which gives the walls some depth and makes them look less flat, which I think already helps a lot. My favorite feature, however, is this depth coloring effect that mimics atmosphere or fog. It basically uses a gradient to colorize objects based on the distance. With the low alpha at the start, objects close to the player won't be affected much, but far away objects will basically disappear in the colored fog. It's just a matter of matching the end color with the horizon. I guess in general, low poly assets are rather easy to create, and that's why the style is so compelling to many solo and indie devs. But it can also really easily look flat and boring. So shading effects like these can help quite a bit. Another thing that can help a lot is changing the overall feel of the scene while playing the game. So I adjusted the same effects to create a night scene, which was quite easy. Writing a script that makes the sun rotate depending on the time of day was also not hard, but everything after that took me hours to figure out. While the color of the sun, its rotation and shadows are all either handled by Unity or easy to access, the depth gradient is a custom shader and not so easy to adjust during runtime. While the shader was looking good at night, the fog color in the distance was not matching during the daytime, so that needed to change. And let's just say that writing shaders is quite a bit more complex than I anticipated. So for the next 1 to 2 days, my screen mostly looked like this. Or this. Well, you get the point. But I guess in the end it worked, ignoring some minor lighting bugs. The way I got it to work is to create a 2D gradient texture during runtime, which receives the alert results from these two gradients. One for noon and one for midnight. And this gradient will then be pushed into the custom shader logic. Wow, I can't stress how much easier this sounds than its implementation actually was. At least for me. Well, it's done now. But unfortunately, the code is everything but clean, so I'll have to come back to this 100%. Anyways. Let's make this night scene actually look interesting. That means it's time for glowing shrooms. Modeling a shroom in Blender is actually super easy, just deforming a sphere and extruding the stem. Making it glow, however, I don't know. It feels like this should be easy, but just slapping an emissive material onto an object unfortunately is not enough. In the end, it comes down to performance, I believe. So at least in Unity, emissive materials do not work with real-time lighting. So once again, the solution is baking. This time, light maps. But baking is quite resource intensive and takes way longer for bigger scenes. And because I had no idea what I was doing, I had to bake quite a lot, which didn't really work with my current setup. So I quickly created a smaller scene to do some more testing. After dropping in some cliffs and a few trees, I wanted to add some more details with rocks, pebbles and grass. And for this, Unity provides the polybrush tool, making it quite easy to scatter around objects. Just create a collection, adjust some variables, such as rotation, size and frequency, and start painting. Then I added some shrooms with an emissive material and hit bake, and this is the first result with a baked light map. There's still quite some tweaking necessary to make this look good, but first of all, we need more glowy stuff. So time for some more modeling, this time vines. Actually, also not really hard to do, but a bit more time consuming. We can just use the tree mesh we already have and draw a line along existing edges, duplicate them and separate the mesh. After rounding out some of the corners, we use a skin modifier to create an actual mesh. Add a subsurf and there we go. It could be a little smoother in some places, but should be good enough for now. Lastly, I added some glowing rocks or minerals to add some more highlights, rebaked the light maps and played around with the shaders. Due to the limitations of the 3D Toon shader, I had to use a standard Unity material for the baking, and then later on, applied the Toon shaders back to the glowing objects. By the way, this has now been fixed by the publisher. For the shrooms, I found some nice settings to make them look translucent, and added some effects, such as highlights and Fresnel. And that's about it for the scene setup. Last thing to do is to set up post-processing to make things actually glow. All we need for this is a global volume and to make sure post-processing is enabled on the current active camera. And then we can go ham on effects, starting with bloom. Probably the most important one for glowy things. Just a bit of tweaking and it's already looking much better. Next up, vignette. Also a standard effect used in most games. It gradually fades the edges into black, helping to sell the night scene a lot more. And from here, it's basically just adding effect after effect to see what makes a scene pop even more. Finally, I brought back the character. Obviously, the materials didn't match the scene at all anymore, so I changed all the character materials to use the same Toon shader as the rest of the scene. And here we go, a small night scene with a bunch of glowing objects. What do you think? Is it worth all the work? How do you feel about this type of low poly style? Good enough or too boring? I'm still amazed that it's actually quite hard to set something like this up. But that's been my general experience with this project so far. Some things sound easy in my head, but turn out to be really difficult, while for others, it's the opposite. So yeah, that's my progress from the last 2 to 3 weeks. Quite a bit less than I was hoping for. Oh well, baby steps. That's about it. Thanks for watching. Cheers.